your pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable too. Your horse racing fantasy comes true. But no, stable duel.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
It's the summer stream. Time to talk some Stable Duel in Saratoga. Summer racing is right upon us. We're right like smack in the middle of the great summer racing right now, Matt. Coming off a week where we didn't have a show last week. How you doing, buddy? It always feels weird when we don't talk for like 1 week. It feels like I haven't spoke to you in like a year. Honestly.
I know. I feel like, I same. I feel like I'm like, I feel bad. Like I've just been, neglecting Gino or something like that. I'm not seeing him at all. And I'm
just like 1 week. Yeah.
2 weeks, but yeah, I know all is good. And, getting excited for, obviously a big weekend of racing. I love this time of year because you really start seeing a lot of 2-year-old stakes races, and that's kind of my bag. I love these kind of 2-year-old prep races, and so always exciting.
We'll have those this weekend at Saratoga and at Del Mar.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And you really start to see, you start to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit in terms of just everybody, there's been a lot of horses that have had impressive maiden special weight wins, but now we're stepping up and we're kind of going up against, we've had a bunch of horses now that all have 5 or 6 length victories in their maidens. Now let's see how they run against each other. Now you start to kind of separate who's, potentially on that Breeders' Cup juvenile path versus who might take a little bit longer to develop, or maybe who's just a step below. But it's an exciting time. I mean, and even though I know we're coming off a year last year in which the Breeders' Cup juvenile was a pretty weak field, comparatively speaking, I still get excited for those Breeders' Cup juvenile races. And so this is a good time for me. I love it. My dad hates these types of races. I love them. And I always joke with him. I was like, because I don't have to look through 15 lines of racing, information. Like they're just easier to cap in a lot of cases for me, or quicker.
They're a little more basic with the type of stuff that you're looking for, because you have 1 or 2 races, you have some pedigree, you have some trainer information to look forward to. And, it's not as much, you're projecting a little bit. It is a fun time. And for those of you who are just joining us, maybe you clicked on the stream, you haven't seen us here before. What we're going to do is we'll talk a little bit about what the Stable Duel contests are for this weekend. Stable Duel is like fantasy horse racing. Try to think of it that way. If you've ever played daily fantasy for any type of sports like football, a lot of people play DFS. This is the very similar format. You build a lineup based on a salary cap. So you can't just pick the heavy chalk in every race. You are forced to actually build a lineup where you have to use some prices. You have to use a lot of horses that are 5, 6 to 1 or above. So that's the whole point of our show. And like a lot of the content that I always do, even if I'm providing selections and stuff for Louisiana, I will always try. When I talk with Matt, I know Matt will always try. Yep. I think the point of horse racing is trying to beat the favorite. I feel like sometimes we learn it backwards and we think we're just trying to pick the winner, or like the most likely winner of the race, and people will sort of all gravitate immediately to the favorite or one of the top couple favorites. For me, my approach is always the opposite. I immediately open up the race and go, how can I beat these horses, the short price horses? And sometimes you can't, right? Sometimes you just look and go, it doesn't fit here. But I think the approach, one thing, Matt, you and I won't always have winners. Nobody will. There'll be a lot of times when we have losers. But the one thing that I can always give, you can always give every day, is a correct approach.
Yes.
And a right way of doing it. And I feel like if we start with that, and every day knowing, okay, I'm not going to make a whole lot of mistakes with my wagering, you're in a good spot. Yeah. Right. And like,
absolutely. And I think the other thing to mention here is, it's something I've started tracking, where I start tracking, the horses I give out on these live streams. When we talk about Stable Duel, obviously with the fantasy element of it, you get points for first, second, third, fourth. So, we might give out a horse that runs second, might do really well in stable duel, a horse that might not cost you much money, runs really well, but we still give out a lot of plays that win. And so, even if you're just your average everyday horse player, we're still giving out those plays. And here's the thing, to your point, it's, your ROI goes up so much when you get away from playing chalk. And, when I play the picks that I give out on these shows, I only have to hit one winner to basically make up my weekend balance. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, if you're playing $2 to win on every race and there's a 10 race card, right? You got to get to 20 to be positive. Yep. And if you have one horse that's an 8-to-1 shot, you're there.
Basically, yeah.
Like you're even. So if you have two of those, all the one 5-to-1 shot, another 5-to-1 shot, all of a sudden you're positive. Like when I'm playing Louisiana, they have 7 race cards. I hit one of those horses on the day. I only got to get to 14 for my ROI there.
Right.
So I hit one 6-to-1, 7-to-1. I'm already positive for the day. And people, because the way we bet, we play pick fours, pick fives, we play a lot of other stuff, but I play a lot of win wagers too. And that's what keeps you going in between those big hits, right? Yes. That's what's nice about stable duel. Also, like we're saying, is you have these strong opinions some days where maybe you don't win, but you have a couple really long shot horses or price horses that finish second or third. Maybe the favorites that you didn't like don't win and you beat them, but you miss on the horses when you're trying to spread. Well, stable duel will help you out there. And what I've been really liking in watching stable duel, looking at the stable duel schedule recently, it seems like there are more options and a lot of really affordable contests. Throughout the week, there were 5 games on Wednesday, 5 games on Thursday, and you could play all 5 of the games for like $60.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the midweek games have been, $5-10 games in a lot of cases, at different tracks, Ellis Park, Woodbine, wherever. And what's nice is a lot of these weekend games too, it's not uncommon for stable duel to run multiple contests at one track where they might do a $5 game and a $30 game. And I think and I really like a lot of these mid-price games. For instance, the game today at Del Mar is a $30 game. So it's not so expensive. It's not so cost prohibitive. I mean, trust me, we see plenty of people post $30 sequence tickets, every single day. And so $30 for playing an entire card is not bad at all, actually. And so, I think these $30 games, $25 games, these are really, I think, fun contests and contests that people can get into, and the payouts go pretty deep. So they usually pay out the top 20, players or so in these. So even if you don't win, you can still finish in the money and double up your investment, which is always a nice way to start the weekend.
Well, Matt, we have a fun stable duel schedule again. Like, just look at today.
Yeah,
for today,
it's deep. Yeah.
Gulfstream, Penn National, Del Mar, Monmouth Park, Ellis, and Woodbine, all for Friday.
Yeah.
Gulfstream, $10, Penn National, $10, Del Mar, $30, Monmouth, $5, Ellis, $3, Woodbine, $10. They're all affordable.
Yep.
For for $75, $80, you're in all of them. Yep. Every one, you give yourself an opportunity. That's what's really fun. You can handicap all these different cards. You can have like a full card worth of action for $5 or $10. And then maybe throughout the card, there are a few horses that you look at and you're like, this horse is way higher than they should be. And you go and you play them a little bit. So hopefully we can lead you to some prices this weekend. And the options are great. I think people just enjoy having so many different options they can dive into, especially when they're tracks like Del Mar. So let's talk some Del Mar for Friday, for Saturday. And let's start with Del Mar because Del Mar has that $30 game that you were talking about a little later on today. So let's see if we can pick out a couple prices for folks along the way. I'm going to look at races 2, 6, and 8. What about you for Del Mar?
I'm in the middle. I got 4, 5, 6.
Okay, let's start in race 2. So we're looking at the daily racing form, drf.com, with the past performances. We always like to use those while we're navigating along. It makes it so nice to get a snapshot of the horse, and you can click on the replays and the charts and everything. In race number 2, I'm going to go to the number 2 in here, Stones River. I don't think anyone that's as quick as this guy. You look up and down the field, you have Camaraderie. Right next door, you have Funkenstein, Big Flame, La Flama Blanca. You've got Willie the Cobbler.
Yeah.
Bill, you've got Perfect Cut, Salto de Tigre, KP Day. None of these horses are really quick. And then you've got Willie the Cobbler, or then you've got Stones River, who is always showing speed. And not even like 24, oh, nobody else is getting the lead. We're going 25 to the half speed. This guy's legitimately quick. In his last start, he raced against $40,000 claimers. That start was just a little bit too tough. He was 27-1 that day, and it was back in April. He's had a few months off since then. I think he's freshened and ready for this spot. He's going to go on the dirt now instead of the turf. He's fine on the dirt. He's certainly capable on the dirt. And for him, it's more of a pace thing. I think he's the horse that's going to get the lead. I don't see who else pushes him. In a pick 4 or pick 5, he's nice to have because turning for home, he should be on the lead. In Stable Duel, he's nice because I think win or lose, he's going to give you a good run for your money and hopefully hang around for at least a slice.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like this play quite a bit, actually. He was the horse I was looking at potentially talking about today. So absolutely I like this at this price.
The very capable Ayuso is struggling to start the meet. Matt, we see this at Del Mar and at Saratoga. Really good riders go 2 for 40, 2 for 50, 2 for 70. It's what happens when it's tough, when the fields are deep, when everybody's trying to win a little bit more, right? Like a little bit more focused on it.
It's hard. I mean, example at Saratoga, Dylan Davis, who was nearly your Belmont riding champion, is winning at 3% right now at Saratoga. I mean, it's not like Dylan Davis forgot how to ride driving up the New York Thruway. I mean, he's still a good rider, and it's just, it's a lot more competition for rides, a lot more competition for mounts. Everybody's on their A game up there. And the same thing's true out at Del Mar. There was that big gap we talked about between Santa Anita and Del Mar. People are coming in guns blazing with this, and it makes it tough, makes it real tough. And the fields have been so deep.
And I gotta say,
that's one of the things.
You know what? It's at this point still, Del Mar's been better, I will say. At the and it's not as if Saratoga's been bad or anything. But Del Mar has been really good, and I'm not sure if it will sustain. But their field sizes, the competitive racing overall, has just been fantastic.
It really has.
We continue through Del Mar for Friday. I'm in the 6th next. I think you're before that though, or no?
Yeah, I'm in the 4th.
Okay,
and 5th.
Go to races 4 and 5 for us.
Yeah. So in the 4th race, this is a 5.5 furlong maiden claimer for 2-year-old fillies on the dirt. And for this particular race, what's interesting is I would say, and Barry apparently is out in the sticks in Saratoga somewhere and not able to join us today, but shout out to the sniper. But this is a race where you want to attack a price, I think, in this race. And maybe you disagree with my approach, but there's a lot of horses at a big price I think you can use in this particular race because there's a lot of horses stepping down in class from running in maiden special weights to running in a maiden claimer. That said, the horse I landed on was number 7, Smiling Princess, who's going to go off at 6-1 and is only going to cost you $5,000. And this is a horse that actually is not stepping down in class, is kind of remaining at the same class. But this is a horse, we talk about rough maiden efforts. This is a horse that just had a rough go. And Gino, if you want to actually pull up the video of this one and the head on, this is one where
she drew the rail.
Drew the rail in her first debut effort, and just all you need to do, look at this.
Veered right in, and you're just sort of done at Losel.
And you're absolutely done. And now they're trying to hustle her up, and she's 10 lengths back before this race even really gets started. And so this was just a rough effort. I mean, that's all you needed to really see.
Absolutely.
But this was just a rough effort. So what happens? She comes back second time. She draws Mount down towards the outside, which we always like that inside out move. And now she's getting blinkers put on to kind of hopefully capture some of that speed. It's also important to point out in that debut effort, she went off as the favorite.
She got money.
She got a lot of money.
Is good early on with young horses too.
Absolutely. And this barn has some success, granted a limited number of cases, but has some success with the blinkers being added. So I just think this horse getting a better post position, getting outside, getting the blinkers, just being a little bit more forwardly placed. The other thing I look for in running lines, when a horse gets away slowly like this, one of the things I look at is how, if you see this horse was 10 lengths back by first call. If you notice, one of the things I like to look at is, does this horse just give up, basically? Does this horse go from 10 lengths back to 30 lengths back? And it did. It just kind of kept running. It ran its race. It didn't really make up much ground. It passed another horse at some point, but it never kind of just packed it in and it was like, okay, finish 27 lengths back, because you see that sometimes. So if this horse just gets off better out of the gate, which I think it will, I think this has a real shot of running much, much better this time out. And like you said, Barn is highly effective with young horses. So that's kind of my play in the fourth race, Smiling Princess at 6-1 on Stable Duel, only going to cost you $5,000.
Lots of positives inside to outside with the blinks for a good barn with youngsters. That's race 4 for Matt. And Matt will also roll right next to race number 5. We'll go 5 furlongs on the turf course there. Who are we looking at here, Matty?
Yeah, so it's the maiden special weight again. Gotta love my maidens, and for 3-year-old fillies and up. And kind of, there's 2 horses that are interesting to me. The far inside horse, I'd like that horse more if it wasn't drawing the rail. And I really do like that horse, but I just don't know about the rail. And this horse hasn't shown elite speed coming out of the gate. And so I'm just worried this horse gets shuffled back a little too far. But that's the one. But the number 2 is the one that I'm actually on. And this is a pretty inexpensive horse for Stable Duel, 12-1, and only going to cost you $750. And again, when you're looking at, Stable Duel, this allows you to go and pick a couple favorites in some other races, when you're saving this much money on a potential horse. But the play that I like here is, I just love the influence. I love the pedigree, particularly underneath from Sutton Veney. She's cranking out turf winners. I mean, she's the dam to True Valor, who we just saw come in second at the Grade 3 Troy. Yep. She also is the dam to No K Never, who's a really nice Wesley Ward sprinter, who just broke her maiden. So
and won first time out in her only race, which you like to see some precocity there too,
Exactly. And so, and Caravaggio as a sire is pretty good on these turf sprints and also producing young winners. Obviously, the horse is getting Lasix, it's first time running. I know, if you read the Daily Racing Form notes, it says, Papa Prodromo is not known for, cranking out first time winners. And it's true. But if you look at the works on this horse, they've been pretty solid. That July 23rd work is 59-3 over 5 furlongs, then goes to a minute 2 over 5 furlongs, then a 47-4 over 4 furlongs. I mean, they're not bullets, but this horse is cranking. I mean, they're getting this horse ready to run. This horse clearly has some natural speed. So, I know the barn doesn't always fire on first time outs, but there's a lot to like from this horse from a pedigree standpoint. And I just really like the works coming into this. And at 12-1, I just think even if you just capture second, third place, that's a huge win from a return on investment standpoint in Stable Duel.
This barn has had, for the record, Papa Prodromo has been having a really nice year. An awesome year. And just a little small thing. So we're pulling up how Papa Prodromo has done with all of his first-time starters over the last 5 years. That's what we're looking at this chart right here. He just won with a 41-1 shot at Del Mar on August the 5th. He finished 10th with the horse at Del Mar. He finished second with the horse at Del Mar at 24-1.
Yep.
So 2 of his last 3 horses have been in the exacta at 40-1 and 25-1.
Yep. Yeah.
Just showing
and you're right. He's had a real nice meet. I mean, he was the trainer of American Theorem. People you will remember that, the win in your Breeders' Cup race. He's had a real nice meet. I've been keeping an eye on that. And so I just feel like this is a nice play with the pedigree. So
and it started when horses were being removed from Baffer and some horses were kind of shifting around. He got a couple horses here and there. And I think what ends up happening is people were happy. He won a race or 2. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's give George another horse or 2. And it's just been rolling along for him. So that's a sneaky horse to use in Stable Duel. Maybe a sneaky pick 4, pick 5 type of horse too. As we move right next door to the graduation, one of the races you were talking about over the weekend, where we get some 2-year-olds. This one is a Calbred race. The Big Wham is going to take a lot of money. Also think you're going to get Straighten Up taking a lot of money. They're both logical. They're both very nice. They both make a lot of sense. The horse who I think is kind of fun from an exotic standpoint and from maybe a stable duel standpoint is Man Oh Man. He's 5-1 in this race. He's going to be a lot more affordable than either of those other two options here. What's nice about Man Oh Man, while his speed figures aren't quite as high as, the other two who are visually super impressive, what he has shown is, one, he's actually beat Open Company. He faced Open Company in both of his starts, and now he's moving in with Calbreds. He broke his maiden on the synthetic at Golden Gate, and in that race, he sat off the pace a little bit, which could really prove to be key in this race. Because if you look up and down, who better than Tiger is quick. Strength of Autism is quick. Hacking It Up is going to be forwardly placed. Early Release is going to be forwardly placed. Good and Thirsty and Straighten Up are probably all going to be close up. The Big Wham should sit nicely, but he's drawn down towards the inside. And so sometimes it's not as easy, just like you were saying in the other race. When you have a horse in a sprint down on the inside, it's not always just, let's sit right behind him. They could get the shuffle. If Man Oh Man can just sit like third to the outside of some of the speeds in here, he might be able to fall into a really nice trip. What happened in the Pleasanton race, he drew the inside and he had a good start. So he just went on with it. And at the top of the lane, he was up by about 2 lengths. He looked like he was going to win and he stopped. And so in watching the race the first time, I was a little disappointed, like, gosh, he stopped pretty badly. But then you kind of look back at the horse who he lost to, and you go, you know what? It was a horse named Vegas Magic who's actually running in the Sorrento tomorrow for Doug O'Neill.
Yep.
So this was another horse who's open and not a Calbred. So this is probably like, I don't know about a class drop, but a lateral move in here at least in this stakes race. I think he's a little bit interesting, and I love the fact that he's drawn a little towards the outside and he can just sit a bit. That's all I'm hoping in this race.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is a race where you're right. There's a lot of ones on the running lines of a lot of these horses, and it's about who's going to carve out the best trip. And I agree with you. In a case like this, the other thing to mention, for those people maybe just playing stable duel the first time, you have to select 10 horses. There's only 8 races at Del Mar. So, is this one where maybe you say, hey, I want to spend up for the Big Wham, but I'm also going to use Man Oh Man or something like that, and you can use 2 in this race. And that's not going to kill you overall. No. I mean, it's going to cost you about $15,000, but that's not, the end of the world to get 2 horses, $7,000 kind of per horse. That's okay. And so I like this race as one to double up with. And so, I think that, and I'm going to actually tip my hand a little bit. I'll talk about Vegas Magic tomorrow,
nice.
or for Saturday, but that was a very impressive race in a lot of ways. And I've already produced a next out winner too. And I think it's going to produce a couple more winners coming out of that race. So that was a nice one. And you're right. The more you watch that race, the less he stops and the more Vegas Magic just
coming, right?
The
more you're just watching, because it's hard sometimes at Pleasanton because the camera angle is a little like when they turn for home and it's a smaller track. So you can't really get the feel for how big was the stretch or was he stopping. But I agree with you. And just watching that, Vegas Magic shows up against Greatest Stakes Company tomorrow. I'm thinking Man Oh Man is in a good spot here to give us a nice run for our money. So speaking of nice, I've got one more, and I don't know this for a fact, Matt, but I can make an assumption on who this horse was named after in race number 8, the number 10, Nice Guy Clay. I'd imagine this was Clay Helton. Just thinking, because that's been the common trope for Clay Helton when he was the coach of USC. Nice guy. Yeah. Like everybody would say that about Clay. Nice guy. He's such a nice guy. But that would always be the first part of saying, but he's a terrible coach. It was like Clay Helton, great guy. He's the type of guy you want to mold young minds. You want him to be, coming into your living room with your son. But he can't coach. That was always the thing with poor Clay Helton. We'll see if things can be a little different this year with old Lincoln. But I thought this one must have been named after old Clay. And Matt, in watching this race, I do think sometimes people will see Los Alamitos and maybe kind of dismiss it.
Yep.
And maybe not think, oh, it wasn't Santa Anita, it wasn't Del Mar. We're going to be watching the 6 horse in this race, and that is Nice Guy Clay, who's going to be making his career debut for Brian Corner and for JMS Stables. I always seem to play these team runners. Brian Corner is so good with younger horses and with horses that don't have a whole lot of experience. And Nice Guy Clay was making his debut here. He was hooked like 3 or 4 wide all the way around the racetrack. He's the number 6. He's only about 2 lengths off here, but he's wide all the way around, which is not easy. He's given up ground. When they hit the top of the lane, the 2 horses in front of him are actually the 2 favorites in here. And so the 6 horse is wide down the middle of the racetrack. Right about here, he looks like he's in pretty good shape. He looks like he's going to start making up some ground. And then at this point, he kind of looks like, okay, he's not, there's no way he's going to win this race. Now, watch him kick into this gear late and stretch his legs.
Yep. Look at that.
And just get up on the wire. That was first time out going 5.5 for a horse who was chasing 2 horses in front of him that were supposed to win, and he wasn't. I love the way he stretched out late like that. To me, that just looks like a horse who's going to get a little bit better with distance. Also, that was his first start. That was a start at Los Al. Now he comes over to Del Mar. He is trained very, very fast on the Del Mar track. Look at that work on July the 31st. It was fastest of 102 in the mornings there. Yeah. So he is training really, really well over that Del Mar racetrack. He comes back. They slow him down a little bit in just a 3 furlong blowout. He's drawn to the outside. Nobody in this race really scares the heck out of you. I mean, there aren't any monsters in here. There are a lot of solid horses, a couple others that are multiple winners that, he gives some experience to. But I loved that victory. I really liked what happened late because I just did not think he was going to get up at all. And it was determined, and it felt like a horse who's going to get a little bit better with some distance. So I think Corner and JMS have one that's very live here to close out the card today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that. And I always like horses that, start showing something late. And whether it's switching leads, especially young horses, or just being able to stretch out like that. And you're getting a real nice price, 10-1 on a horse like that. So, I like that play a lot.
It's a very harness racing way of doing it too. Like you're saying, is that in harness racing, what's great when horses show late interest, any type of late energy, they actually are able to reproduce their efforts like the next week because the form is so you race every week. So you get in trouble one week, the next week, like they put you right on the front end. Yeah, usually. And they show like a whole bunch of different energy. So that's an interesting an angle there. So I'm not completely positive on that, but you were saying our stream's a little bit wonky maybe on Twitter. Right now.
It just says broadcast can't be shown for some reason on mine. So I don't know. Okay. But that's maybe that's my Wi-Fi. I don't know.
Well, if anyone is out there having any problems with the stream, let us know. Because it's technology. But I was gonna say we'll do our best, and for people that might be on Facebook, on YouTube, on Stable Duels, also we'll see if we're having any issues or not. Maddie, let's go over to Saratoga for today. Little later on the card so I wanted to start with Del Mar because Del Mar has the Stable Duel contest. We don't have Stable Duel contest for Saratoga, but we do have awesome racing that everyone's going to be paying attention to. So tell us where you're looking for Saratoga.
So I'm going late at Saratoga. I'm going races 7, 9, and 10.
Okay, cool. I'm towards the late part of Saratoga also, but our buddy Barry, the sniper, has a couple that he wanted to mention in race number 1 at Saratoga. He liked the number 6. So let's pull up Saratoga for Sniper. We're looking at our daily racing form, past performances formulator, and we're pulling up Saratoga for Friday. Barry is out there today. Shout out to our good friend Barry, who is going to be taking it in, getting nice and lit out there, getting nice and toasty out at Saratoga. So
Although the weather, it really cooled down between last weekend and this weekend. It was up in the 90s last weekend. I think
yeah,
the high is 76 up there today. So this is lovely Saratoga weather. So, which is funny because I was up there for Four-Star Day weekend last year, and it was the exact same thing. Weekend before was miserable, and the weekend I got up there, like my buddy was like, "Do you need to buy sweatpants or something? Like it's pretty cool in the mornings." So it's lovely up there. So
yeah.
wish Barry the best.
I am getting similar on the broadcast. I'm going to do some technical stuff and see if I can work on it. But just to give a shout out to the sniper, we've actually got. So we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. So at least we got some people there.
Hey, we got something.
Must be a Twitter thing because I think it's on all of our Twitter accounts where it's not quite streaming that much. So I'll work on it a little there and see if we can replay it too a little later from YouTube for anyone that wants some help. So race number 1, the 6 for the sniper. Sniper's other play is going to come in race number 10. So you and I are going to navigate to race number 7, I believe, right? That's where you said you have your play.
Yep. That's
and I'm going to race 7. You tell us where you want to go. Let's see.
I'm gonna go to the 4 Diamond Hands.
Okay, so we're not on the same one. Tell us about Diamond Hands. All
right. So Diamond Hands, really interesting horse. So 6-1 in the morning line. First of all, this is a mile on the turf, $80,000 option claimer for 3-year-old fillies. Diamond Hands, 6-1 in the morning line, $5,000 in stable duel. Although we're not playing stable duel, but still, a good horse from the morning line standpoint. Had been in the Christophe Clement barn, now in the Todd Pletcher barn. This is a horse that had been making really nice progress. If you look at each of its efforts, you saw increasing buyer speed figures each time out. This horse ran second at the Hilltop to Pizza Bianca on Belmont weekend, or on Preakness weekend, I should say. And if you look actually 3 back, broke its maiden against a really nice horse called Oakhurst. Oakhurst, we actually just saw run in the Saratoga Oaks last week in the Grade 3, had finished second in a stakes race before that. So the Diamond Hands had gone up against and run against some pretty nice competition, run against Haughty before that. And so these are some names that people should be familiar with.
Yep.
Now, what's interesting is Diamond Hands is a horse that really should be on the lead or very close to the lead. Look at what happened last time out. Last time out, Joel Rosario gets aboard. And listen, I'm not going to badmouth Joel because Joel's won a hell of a lot more races than I could ever dream of winning. But this is a horse that, if you look at his running lines, every single race, this horse was going 24 opening quarter, 48 opening half, 23 and 2 opening quarter, 47 and 4 opening, 47 and 3 opening half. What does Joel do? Joel gets out there and does the Saratoga crawl basically at Belmont and goes 26 and 52 in the opening quarter and half. And if you have a speed horse, do not minimize that speed. Get out there and let this horse run. And so really held this horse back. They crawled around the track, and you totally negate the benefit of having early speed. You're not opening up any lengths on the field. You're really a stranglehold on this horse. And then the horse doesn't want to go at the end. And so I like the fact that we're getting Luis Saez aboard. We're getting a little bit of a jockey change. I think if Todd and Louis look at this horse, and I'm sure the way this horse trains as well, they're realizing, let's let this horse get out on just a nice, easy lead up front. Let this horse go. Let this horse open up 3, 4, 5 lengths potentially in the field and just go. And I think a mile is kind of a great distance for this horse. And so I just think this horse gets a better ride, has a real shot to win. And at 6-1, I think is, like I said, I don't think it's going to get bet down too much. Might get bet down a little bit, but I really like Diamond Hands here in this race.
Diamond Hands for Maddie. I'm going a little next door, Matt, to Linda's Gift, who has run into Diamond Hands a couple times. So, you go through her career, her debut, she's a runner-up first time out of the box at Gulfstream Park. She comes back in her second start. She breaks her maiden. Career start number 3 on June the 16th. She is in legitimate traffic early. She has to check. She has to back up. She loses 2 lengths, and they're going 26 and 52 in that race. She has to angle all the way around 6 wide, and she actually moves to the lead late it was a really good effort. She comes back on July the 14th. She's in post 10. She gets hooked wide going into the turn. She's about 3 wide all the way around. She's actually with the top group when they turn for home, but the wide trip ends up catching up with her. Now she's going to cut back to a mile, and she should have a little bit more late punch. If there's just any sort of honest pace in here at all, I think she comes a running. She's just been in really nice form. I talk about this. I say this at least once every week when we have our shows. Everything for her makes sense. Her 4-race career, every one of her races makes sense to me. And I think she's in a really good spot because she last time out went a mile and an eighth and didn't really have a chance with that trip to take a step forward. She's gradually stepped forward in every other one of her races. So now if I'm playing her off the June 16th race and she just can take one small step forward off of that, she's right there. And she's 10-1, which is a great price for any type of late pick 4s, late exotics. I like Linda's gift in here.
Like it.
Let's move to race number 8 for me. You said you have the 8th too, or no?
I have the 9th.
I have
the 9th and the 10th. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm in race number 8. I am looking at the number 6 in here. This is a New York bred stakes. It's the Evan Shipman going a mile. And the horse that I'm looking at won a pretty similar race on July the 10th, Market Alert. What I like about Market Alert that day is just the way that he sat off the pace. He sat a nice trip, and that's the exact type of trip he might need to sit in here with horses like the Storm is a Bruin and Seafoam. They're both quick. 3 Jokers will probably be forwardly placed. May the 28th, he ran into Highly Motivated and Stage Raider. Like, that was a really tough race for him. We've seen 3 next out winners out of that. Highly Motivated went over and won the Monmouth Cup. Stage Raider won here at Saratoga, earned a 99 buyer in winning that race. The 2 Boss came out of his to win at Parks and earned a 92 buyer, winning by 6. That was a loaded race. Coming out of that race, Market Alert wins. If he sits a trip just like that, I think he's in a good spot. He probably has to step up a little bit because, you have some strong horses in here. This is a tougher group, but you've been playing against a lot of these horses that come back from Dubai in their first race. Bankit is 9-5. He draws the rail in here. If he beats me at that price, he beats me. I'm looking elsewhere. I think Market Alert can sit the trip.
This horse makes a lot of sense. And I'm totally with you. I think the 4 and the 7 are going to wear each other out. I think the 1 I'm just going to play against just out of pure principle. And I was a little interested in Tiergan. The reason I didn't choose this one is Tiergan and Market Alert for me were very close. And I was like, could Tiergan get there? Like, Tiergan stepping up in class, but I think is going to get the right trip. And also just won a race out of this Wilton Chute, which is a little bit of a different configuration than what some of these horses are used to running. But Market Alert makes a lot of sense and is absolutely going to be included in all my exotic tickets and all my sequences for this late pick 5 for sure.
Okay. So, Maddie, I believe you have race number 9. Take us right next door to the 9th race. Tell us who you're looking at.
Yeah. The 9th is a maiden claimer, $40,000 maiden claimer, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. And for state breds, for state bred fillies 3 years old and up, I went kind of with a big price, but I went to the far outside in the 10 horse Lola. And much like you, Gino, and this is something you really taught me and something that I definitely do, I can explain every single line of this horse's race. And you look at the first debut effort, hopped at the start, just was already off at a deficit, and just, it was a mid-debut effort, wasn't great, but it was fine. Then goes long on the dirt, doesn't like that at all. And then comes back and goes long on the turf. Doesn't really like that either. But what you see when it went long on the turf is it finally got a good start, got a good break. And because the other thing is in that second race, it broke from the far inside and had a bad break as well. Finally gets a good break and shows some early speed and shows some early interest, and then just fades late at a mile and a 16th. Now we're cutting this horse back to 5.5 furlongs,
Yep.
which I think is perfect. We're getting the blinkers put on,
Yep.
which is going to focus this horse, and we're going to be on the far outside. So this horse and Dylan Davis, who I mentioned earlier, who has not forgotten how to ride, has just not gotten a lot of live 6 to 5 horses this meet. Dylan is be able to figure out where he wants to slot Lola in. So I think the cutback makes sense. I think you're on the preferred surface now, and you're at the preferred distance. You got the blinkers, you got the outside post. I just think there's a lot lining up here. I like this horse at 15-1 a lot. And I think she's going to run really well today.
Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. And little man Lola wants Matt. I remember good old damn Yankees. I don't know if you guys, when we were young, I lived in Temple City, and so what they do is all the young kids at all the Temple City schools, they get to go to watch the high school put on the local play. I remember a couple times we get to go see Temple City High School putting on damn Yankees. And it was always a big deal because you get to get out of school that day and you get to go at noon and go for a couple hours and watch a play. And it's fun. And everybody's in the San Gabriel Civic Auditorium. And it just seems like, I remember it was such a big deal watching everyone, damn Yankees. And
it was,
even Milo is excited about it.
I remember doing that as well. I think mine was it Bye Bye Birdie? I remember going to see that one. But we did that my senior year in school. I was actually in the musical, and
awesome.
It was a lot of fun to have the kids, the young kids show up for the one day and do it for them. So that was, you're right. That was always a really fun thing. We did that in our area as well. So
that little matinee show where you could do it for all the kids in the area. And a lot of times, you go pick up a kid from the audience and you're dancing around with them or you get them involved and stuff. So a lot of fun. Matt's going for Lola today at Saratoga in race number 9. Let's close things out with the 10th race. I've got one in there, as does our man, the Sniper. The Sniper likes, I believe, the number 7 in here. That is Waterville. So Waterville for Christophe Clement comes off of a couple really nice efforts back to back, but good race. Then a layoff line. In a spot like this, you sort of feel like, okay, they're probably pointing her to this race, right?
Yeah.
Where she seems like a horse who's had some issues in between, but you want to point her to a spot where you can have her ready to fire a big one. And it sort of feels like that might be the case here with her. And again, it's Dylan Davis.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, do you have one in this race or not?
I do. And I'm right next door with Classic Lynn.
That is exactly my pick as well. So
there we go. There we go.
Right.
So we're together. She did not. I like her race last time out. And another one where we talk about it. 5 races. Look at her debut at Saratoga. She's defeated. She's beaten only a length. It was a really good effort. She comes back in her second start. It's on an off track. And so she's well beaten. Third start, they stretch her out. She goes long. She wins. Comes back in her fourth start. Again, it's an off track. She doesn't fire. Put a line right through the race. It was against Stakes Company. And that was back in October. She's sent to the bench from October to July. She shows back up in July in a race that she absolutely needed. She's been off for 9 months, 10 months. So, she's going to need that race from a fitness standpoint. I want to pull it up. I thought she ran really well in here. Kind of some sneaky trouble. So she's the 4 in this race that we're watching. And it's not as if there's the most massive field in the world, but she gets bumped a little bit at the start. She's going to end up settling 4th, about 3 lengths off, and she's inside, and she actually looks like she's getting a perfect trip, right? The way this race starts and the way this race shapes up, you have 3 horses in front of her carving it out. She's able to tuck in right behind them, and what ends up happening is I feel like every horse that I play right now gets this trip, where they're in this trip and you're like, oh, okay, great. Something's going to open for them. And then it just it doesn't, or it's traffic, or they have to kind of stop and they just don't get that smooth trip all the way. Even right here, she's got to she's starting to have to settle behind horses now.
Yeah.
The trip
is backing up already,
right? Because now the 2's in front of her. So she can't run up on the heels of the 2 or can't move inside of Dufresne. right here.
Yep.
And now taps on the brakes and she backs up a little bit. And now, if you've watched races before and you bet Classic Lynn, you can see exactly what's happening. She's pinned in a little bit. The horses to her outside are going to make a little bit of a move. And so she doesn't have the opportunity to go to the outside. Classic Lynn is actually going to keep to the inside here. And Classic Lynn makes a move when the rail opens up right to the inside, right? She hits that hole, but it gets tight again. Now, as horses shift back over, she is right there, right up within a length. Then she gets a little bit tired. So I think it was a combination of when you're in tight down there, it's kind of hard to hit that hole with all of your momentum. You have to kind of sneak up there a little bit. And two, this was her first start since October, so she had every right to get a little bit tired at that point of the race and need the race when the real running started.
Absolutely. And everything you said, absolutely agree. It's one of the reasons I ended up on her. But one of the other things, she's getting LASIX for the first time today, which is a big, I think a big thing. And the other is, you mentioned she needs the start. Her trainer, Joe Sharp, is 35% second off the layoff. And this was a horse that, just like you said, desperately needed one off the bench. 10 months between races, and then steps into pretty deep water, which tells you what Sharp thinks of this horse. It's not like he brought her back in an optional claimer or something like that. Brought her horse back in a state restricted stakes race, and now it's coming right back in another one. So I just think this is a horse that makes a lot of sense to me, and I might get a lot of money going towards it, but I don't think there's a mistake that Barry and us are kind of both targeting this race as one where you can get a price.
No, normally it's Matt and Barry, me and Matt in unison today with Classic Lynn. And how about this? So for my my Saratoga plays for today, race 7, race 8, race 10, 6, 6, 6. I know. A little spooky. Little devilish over here on my end. Let's move to Saturday. Saturday, we've got big days at Saratoga, at Del Mar. Churchill Downs doesn't have stable dual games, but they have the Arlington Million also running on Saturday, and they have the Beverly D running over there. They have a couple other stakes races on the undercard. But let's get to Saturday for Saratoga, and then we'll hit Saturday for Del Mar. I don't think the schedule I've been looking for Saturday games is posted.
It's up now. It's up.
Oh, it's up now. Okay. So what can you let us know? Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Saturday we have games at Gulfstream, Canterbury, Del Mar, Woodbine, and Monmouth. So the Gulfstream contest is a $15 3-limit entry. Canterbury has a $15 game as well, 3-limit entry. And then Del Mar on Saturday, this is what I love. They have the $5 game for people. They also have the $25 game for people. The $25 game has a $2,000 pot. So if you're just a small dollar player, do it something. If you want to pay a little bit more, go for it. If you want to do it, which is what I do, it's always a lot of fun. So Del Mar there, and then Monmouth for Saturday, $5 game. Again, anybody can play that. That's an early post time as well, so remember to get that in. And then Woodbine, $15 game, 3-limit entry. So some $15, some $5, some $25. And I'll tell you something right now. People better pay attention to Stable Duel on Saturday mornings, because here's the thing. I made a lot of money last week at Monmouth Park because it was an early post and everybody was obsessed with Saratoga, and everybody forgot. I think Monmouth was going off so early. And so I'm sitting there walking the dog at lunch, and I look down at my phone and I realize there's only 15 stables entered in a contest where the top 12 is getting paid out. And I just used the app to cap, because I didn't have the form actually, for Monmouth at that time. And so it was like 20 minutes to post. And so I'm like frantically going through and trying to, cap on the app. And I think 27 stables ended up entering. Still, top 12 paid out. I ended up I think 6th or something like that, and won like $60. So it was just,
just by paying attention, right?
Exactly.
Just by taking you were in all capped and everything and all set up for them, but you just look and realized, hey, I'm in a good position here. It's not going to take me a whole lot to cash and make a little bit of money. And then boom, jump right in, especially now when there's more options some of these days, right?
Yeah.
One of these tracks might get forgotten about, or maybe one of them gets sort of, like we said, get lost in the shuffle a little bit. And then you look there and you go, this should be the one that I attack because this is going to be a good opportunity for me to make some money. Let's make some money at Saratoga on Saturday. Maddie, what are you looking at for Saratoga for Saturday?
I got one in the first, and then
cool.
I'll let you know where I go after that. But I got one in the first.
Okay,
my DRF is being very slow right now. So but yeah, so I have one in the first, and where I'm going to go, and this is we'll start things off with a $105,000 maiden special weight for 2-year-olds, Interturf, mile and a 16th. I will actually go with the number 2 horse, Reckoning Force.
Nice.
This is
I almost played this horse too. Yeah.
This horse makes a lot of sense in this spot. And this is the type of horse that I am like. David Aragona, who sets the morning lines for New York, it's about as good as they get at setting morning lines. But this is one where I was like, I think this horse is going to get bet down.
And it's funny because he actually writes sometimes the comments in the DRF also, and you can tell he when he made like in the comment that he actually kind of likes this horse a little bit too, or thinks the horse might be better than like the speed figure might have suggested, and thinks that race might come back live. So that's funny that you mentioned that too, because I agree. I think he's absolutely the best, and I feel like he even might have thought, I didn't know what to do with this horse.
And it's understandable because it's also, if you look through, most of this field is first-time starters. So there's a lot of just like what are we going to get out of
good
these?
barn firsters too, so they'll probably take money. Pletcher, Makers, Brown horses,
Yeah, and you got a couple Calumet homebreds, and like there's definitely some horses in here which makes sense as first timers. But I just think one of the things you and I talk about a lot of times is I'd rather see a horse get some of their mistakes out on the track first, and kind of figure things out. This is a horse that's now going into his 3rd race, 2nd in Saratoga, started its career obviously overseas for Joseph O'Brien, Aiden's son, and I have a lot of faith in Joseph O'Brien. I think he's going to get this horse ready. This horse ran a competitive 4th against again, I think a pretty decent field, and was going this distance at a mile and a 16th, and didn't seem to have any struggles with it at that distance. Gets Ortiz board now. I just think there's a lot to like there, and I just trust the barn in this particular case and the pedigree, and just think the second time out in North America, second time out at Saratoga, this horse is just going to improve. And I think 6-1 is a very good price if you're able to get it, and a nice way to maybe kick off an early pick 5 or pick 4 sequence.
Yeah, and there's a progression that nobody else has. Going from 6 furlongs to a mile, and now you get to go second time going long, like you said. Especially at a mile, the experience. It's not easy for even great barns to get horses to go long first time out of the box without one race of experience. So I would absolutely use Reckoning Force in all early exotics. And at 6-1, if this horse was anything around that 5-1-ish range, I think worthy of a win wager. I don't really have that strong an opinion, but I always like just to show us where some of the big stakes races are later on in the card. Gulfport, it'll take a lot of money. You'll also have Damon's Mound. Those two will vie for favoritism. The horse who I was trying to give a case to, and maybe I'll throw in somewhere, is Valenzen Day, who just completely missed the break and had really no shot on July the 16th. But if you're playing him off the first two, maybe he fits in here. But if either one of these horses show up with their big performances, like Gulfport has been awesome in his two.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily. Go ahead.
So I actually do kind of have a little bit of a play here in this one, and that is that's the 5 Owens Leap. And here's my logic on this. And I would not play Owens Leap to win, to be clear. But I think this is a race. If you look at this race and you think Gulfport's a freak, and he's just going to, this is a horse that's won his first 2 wins by 20 lengths. So there's every reason to think this horse is special. And if you go, listen, he's going to be special, then I want to try to find value in an exacta. Okay. And Owens Leap ran second to him before and got blinkers put on now. And again, the equipment change on young horses is something that I tend to pay a lot of attention to. If this horse can just stay close, I think there's something there. and especially staying close early. I mean, that's the thing is if you look, he was already 5 or 6 lengths behind early
Yep.
in that race. If he
Yeah.
can just stay close to Gulfport early, maybe he makes it a little bit.
He can
I don't think
finish.
he can finish. That's the thing. He can finish. And so if he can finish all right, then I like that. And the comment I made here was a maiden version, or I wrote a juvenile version of Happy Saver.
Nice.
And Happy
Yeah.
Saver is one of those horses that always comes in second. We just saw it last week at the Whitney. But you know something? He makes those exactas profitable. Whether he's finishing second to Life is Good, whether he's finishing second to Flightline, he's taking a horse that's going off at 4 to 5 or 3 to 5, or in Flightline's case, maybe 1 to 9.
Yeah.
And he's at least turning that exacta into something because he's going off at 8 to 1 or 13 to 1 like he did last week. And suddenly you could make a little bit of money playing that Life is Good Happy Saver exacta, that Flightline Happy Saver exacta. And that's kind of the way I was approaching this race of saying, listen, I do think Gulfport's the best, but hey, I might play that 4-5 exacta, and that might give me a little bit of money there and
Yep.
a way of turning a little bit of profit in this race.
Yep. I like that option because a lot of times in these races, these speed horses are so focused and worried about each other too,
Yes.
right? Gulfport, Damon's Mount, you're going to have the one Super Chow get sent from the inside
Yep.
with Saez. Now we could have 3 horses in this field battling it out. And the 2 horses that might sit the trip are the 2 that you and I mentioned.
Yeah.
Valenzen Day and Owens Leap. And that's in race number 4 on the Saturday Saratoga card. I'm going to move to race number 8.
All right. And I'm in number 9.
Okay, perfect. So we can go right next to each other there. The 8th race, I'm going to look towards the outside, and I'm looking at the number 11 Daunt. Now, again, another horse who 6 races, all of the races are going long on the turf. All of them make sense to me. None of them are bad, really, at all. He broke his maiden in his second start, came back and finished 3rd in a stakes race last year as a 2-year-old in November. Then he was off from November to May. So we have a 6-7 month layoff. Now you show back up in May. He needed the race there. He comes back in his second start. He's in the grade 2 Pennon Ridge. We've talked about that race a few times.
Yes, yeah.
They went 52 basically to the half mile because Emmanuel was absolutely walking on the front end. Nobody else in that race had a shot. They like when a horse like that can go that slow up front, everybody else is in deep, deep trouble. Comes back on July the 16th. And I really like this effort. And why I like Daunt today is because there's a lot of speed in this race, in race number 8. So Daunt is the number 10 that we are going to be watching here. Right off the bat, boom, boom, bumped on both sides, right? So now, it's not like he was going to be closer, but now he's dead last.
Yeah.
You know, you're bumped on both sides. You can't really get comfortable because now you're in some traffic and now you're dead last. Again, was he going to be on the lead? No, but you have to be. Now he's 12th of 12, not even 10th of 12. You know, knowing that you have to go past every single horse in the race to win is just never a fun thing and not easy. But he's down on the inside and he kind of moves in between horses right there. And then boom, a hole closes on him. Even at the back of the pack, he tried to move inside and he got squeezed out of that spot there. So now he's kind of settling in the second spot. He tips to the outside. He's in the 2 path. And you know what? He's traveling pretty well. He's at the back of the pack, but he doesn't look like he's being hard ridden or anything. He looks like he's actually in hand pretty nicely. And so looking at his trip right here, I'm figuring, okay, great. He'll probably be wide, but at least he'll stay to the outside and stay in the clear because he's moved up pretty close now. He's only about 5 or 6 lengths off.
Yeah.
He's not that far off, even in 12th. This field is so bunched. So you know what's going to happen when there's a bunched field. There's going to be some traffic coming somewhere for a few of these horses. He's trying to stay in there, right? He's in between horses now, and he's starting to get a little bit of momentum, and he's making a move, but he's just got a wall of horses in front of him.
Yeah.
So watch the purple cap now grab and move all the way to the outside.
Yeah.
Boom. And now he starts picking up some pieces and he just misses third here on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, if there were how many times in this race and none of them were overwhelming, But
Right.
at the beginning, he gets bumped on both sides and he gets squeezed back. Then when he's going into the first turn, he tries to move and he gets squeezed on both sides and has to back up. Then after he's making his rally, he's looming up and there's a wall of horses in front of him. So he's got to grab a hold and go to the outside. That's
Yep.
3 times
Yeah.
in race that this
Yeah.
horse has to kind of grab and move around and alter and shift. And I don't know if he's going to have to do that in this race because there is a lot more early speed. Carpe's Dream is in here. You've
Mhm.
got Martini Moonshine, who I think is going to flash more speed. You've got Pika, who's going to
Yep.
be forwardly placed. Capone is going to be forwardly placed in here. Down on the inside, Midnight Worker stretching out from 6 furlongs last time out, and Portfolio Company. I think he'll be able to just sit that trip, relax, take back, press the button, and make one big late run. I like this horse a lot on Saturday. This is one of my better plays of the weekend. If he's anything around like 4-1 plus, I'll bet him to win. He's
Yep.
6-1 here. I think that's a very fair price in a wide open race.
I love it. That's a great play. Great play. And a great example. And, the thing that is so impressive about that last effort is he had all those kind of issues and was being given different directions at different times by the jockey and still finished strong. That's the
Yep.
one thing you love to see. I mean, because one of the things anybody who's ever been on a horse knows that horses, if you start giving them 3-4 different directions in a short period of time, they kind of start going into shutdown mode and they go,
Yeah. What are you telling me to do?
What do you want me to do? And
I'm not going to do that.
for
Exactly.
for this horse to still be that pliant at the end and go, okay, you want me to go now. And
Yep.
that shows you a lot. Shows you a
Handy.
lot. Yep.
Yeah, be able to be maneuvered around all over. And we don't ever like to point out when people are struggling, but as we said, at these tough meets, it's what ends up happening. And
It's true.
in his last 2 races, McCarthy had been aboard, who's been
Yeah.
struggling a little bit. I think he's 2
Yep.
for 74 as of the printing of these past performances with 11 seconds and 13 thirds. And then you have Jose Ortiz jump on.
Yeah.
Right. So you figure that should probably be a little bit of an upgrade right now based on the fact that Trevor's in a little bit of a cold streak.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe even another positive there for Daunt. That's in race number 8. But I believe we both have one in the 9th race.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go, Matt?
Well, this is 7 furlongs on the dirt, $105,000 maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up. And this is a pure pedigree play because I'll go with one of the first time starters and I'll go with the number 2, leading contender.
Yep.
And this is not to oversimplify things, it's a gun runner. And sometimes you just go, I'm going to bet a gun runner. Because he was to that first crop, which is leading contenders from that first crop because he's 3 years old, that's one of the greatest first crops we've seen in a long time, and it's still providing dividends. Obviously, we saw the Haskell, both Cyberknife and Taba, gun runners, and the Amsterdam at Saratoga. 3 of the top 4 were gun runners in that race.
21% with 2-year-old first-time starters.
Yeah.
Whew.
And just, and that number for 3-year-old and up is lower because there's just not that many.
Yeah.
But if you look dirt sprints, 25%. I mean,
Yeah.
just come on. Like,
That's
he's just
unbelievable.
producing. It's incredible.
Well, just
So-
overall at
Yeah.
19%. Overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is absolutely incredible. So what I looked at was, here's a gun runner in Chad Brown's barn, owned by Klarovich, and this horse has been working out beautifully leading up to this race. 48 flat, 4 furlong, minute and 4, 5 furlong, minute 1 flat for a 5 furlong, 47 and 2, 4 furlong. Going back the last few, that last one I mentioned was a gate work. So this horse seems like it's just cranked up and ready to go for a leading barn, for a leading owner. Has Joel Rosario aboard, which, we can complain about Joel sometimes, but Joel in sprints is a whole nother ball game. I think sometimes he sometimes gets a little too smart for himself. I think the longer it goes, he still manages to pull off some amazing rides. But, sometimes he likes weaving through 15 horses, and that's not always the best strategy. But in sprints, he's absolutely incredible. And so I just thought this horse, like I said, you give me a gun runner at 8-1 on the morning line, I'll take that every time.
So our buddy Jake from State Farm with Thrilling Picks lets us know that the stream is working again on Twitter. So that's a positive. And Jake coming with the Anakin gif it's working, which, oh my gosh, I like the Phantom Menace a lot more than most people do, because I think for some of the people that are closer to our age, like that was our Star Wars and one of our first entrances into Star Wars. So I remember my mom, my parents, my dad came and got me out of school at noon. And then in the parking lot, my best friend's mom was waiting for me there, and she drove us to the movies. And she was one of the ladies that was like the team mom for every like one of our teams, because she was fantastic. Like, she knows every food that I ever liked, every snack, anything I didn't like, sandwiches made for me, pizza, cheese bread, ice creams. I mean, everything that I love, she would go and get for me. It was all in this ice chest. She had the whole setup, and we're just kicking back. His dad had his Xboxes, and we're waiting all day for the Phantom Menace. And so I love Phantom Menace. I love that GIF, and I love the pod racing scene is one of my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
We're racing fans. I mean, right?
Yeah,
We're on a racing show here. So I love the Skywalker, and Skywalker takes the lead, and the guy's got the announcer voice in there. I just love it. So Jake, you're going to make me go watch Phantom Menace again right now after this. Thank you for that.
That's great.
Good times. Good times.
So who are you on in this one?
I'm to the outside here. And okay, so Southern Flag last year, as a 3-year-old, he ran 3 really good races.
He did.
And what I like about what I like is that he wasn't the beaten favorite in any of those races. And what I mean by that is those are not races he was supposed to win and lost. That there were other tough horses in those races. Even the race where he was, 8-5, he wasn't favored. So he's losing in other tough spots. He runs good speed figures in all 3 of them. And the last time we see him in 2021 is in July. So he's almost off for a year. He shows back up at Belmont on June the 26th of this year. So it's his first start at 4. He's the number 6 in this race. And he's sitting a great spot. Honestly, if you backed him here, he was 7-2. You would have loved where he was sitting. So he's the number 6 right in this spot.
Yep.
Great spot, right?
Yep.
He's sitting 3rd. You have a long shot from the inside that's kind of run off. You have, the 5 who's 12-1, who's in 2nd, and you're sitting there like right behind them in 3rd, 4th, a couple lengths off. And even right now, he's like moving into contention how you would want a horse on the outside. And then right about here, he's just kind of done.
Yeah.
I love that, though. I love when horses off of long layoffs run like this, when they loom up and then they just stop. Now, the horse who's running right by him on the outside, that's a horse named Accretive. That's a horse who came back in his next start and ran in the Grade 2 Amsterdam, was beaten by a neck, finishing 2nd, and earned a 101 Beyer speed figure in doing so. So if you were a little disappointed that he just didn't really have a whole lot of punch, well, the horse who ran by him and won this race by almost 6 lengths came right back and really flattered the form in his next start. Yeah. And when the rest of the field is beaten by 5+ lengths, I'm not really going to hold it against him all that much, especially when it was his first start in 11 months. We've already seen a horse come back out of this race to win. Impulsiveness came back and won, earned an 85 Beyer, winning long on the turf. This race is live. This race is going to come back strong. This horse showed some ability last year. I think he just ran into a nice horse right now. That was also going 6.5. He should be maybe better at this trip. A little more punch there. I like the number 10, Southern Flag, drawing to the outside.
Like it.
Yep.
Like it a lot.
Right next door, it's the 4-star Dave. It's not the biggest field in the world. It's a Grade 1, though, and you will have horses like Regal Glory, Casa Creed, and Mason as major players in here. Did you have any opinion on this race?
This was a tough one for me. I mean, I almost kind of want to go with Smokin' Jay or Get Smokin'. I should say.
Me too. No, I agree. I kind of want to go there too. I just don't know if he's quite good enough, but I want to.
I don't know if he can hold him off, but he's going to get on the lead. He's got that outside post, and like Could he wire the field? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. He's got Javier, who's on
He's been
fire right
riding
now.
really well
and
too.
it's been given the right rides, and this is now the third back from Maidon. So that last speed figure is right there with what he probably needs to run, that 97 to 100, somewhere around there. So, I mean, if you're looking for a price in that one, I would say go to Get Smoking, because that's, I think, a live shot at 8-1.
I'll give you one more on Saratoga's Saturday card in the get out race, just because Sniper's not around. So I gotta do the get out race for Sniper. And we'll talk about the number 5 Left on Boylston. Debuts on the dirt at Aqueduct. I'm not really concerned with that race because he comes back on the turf in his second start. He runs really well. That's in April, and that's at the maiden 40 level. Feel like that's the spot for him. Shows back up in June off a couple months. They step him up. They try maiden special weights. He's in a little bit too tough. He's wide, and he's going 1 mile and 3/8. So I think multiple excuses. Maybe too long and in a little bit too tough. So shows back up on July the 10th. And I thought this was a really tough trip. He's the number 3 in here, Left on Boylston. So he has a crowded start right off the bat. You'll see he's got to take up, and he's going to steady. Crowding in there, and boink, 3 is going to get pinched back, and all of a sudden, all his momentum, his placing where he wanted to be, he's a little behind. And now, all of a sudden, he's getting into some trouble again and gets shuffled because the 7 moves up to the outside. He only has traffic in front, but he settles in an okay spot. He settles about 5 lengths off. I thought he's traveling pretty well here. He's in about 7th, but he's not all that far off. And he's the one thing that I think maybe if Carmouche could have this one back, he may have said, let's tip to the outside, even if I have to go wide, because when you have so many horses in front of you and you have to roll the dice, you really are taking chances hoping that something's going to open up. Yeah. Because if he moves to the outside right here, maybe he goes a little wide, but maybe he can make one of those big moves to the lead. Yeah. Right? That early middle move. Yeah. When you wait inside, now he's just sort of waiting. And now he's got to hope things open up for him. And what happened? They didn't. He got shut off right there immediately. Yep. He tried to go in between horses, got shut off. Now he's backed up. Look, he was 2 lengths in front of the 9, and now the 9 gets to make that move all the way to the outside. Yep. Now the 3 moves back up again down the rail, and he's traveling pretty well down there. Yeah. But the only problem is these horses in front of him, they got the jump on him. What is he supposed to do? Well, he tries to tip to the outside. He ends up running really well, and he's going to be geared down and finishing 3rd here. I mean, he literally did everything he could after that move once he got stuck inside. Yeah. There wasn't much more he could do. With just a slightly different trip, going through this field, you have a class dropper or 2, but I don't think anyone in here is all that scary. He's going to go 3rd starter of the form cycle. This is the level that he fits. I think it's a good spot for him. He's 6-1. If he's anything in that 5-1 range, I'll make a play on him in the get out race.
Like it. Always like it. And I have a bailout in the at Del Mar later. So
for bailout Barry, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Bailout Barry. Let's head on over to Del Mar. Matt, remind us what the Del Mar contests are for Saturday again. You told us.
Yeah,
we have double options, right?
Double options is $5 game with a $300 pot and a $25 game on Saturday with a $2,000 pot. So if you want to go big and $25 game, you can do that. If you want to just save your money and maybe you're just starting out and just want to put a little bit in, go for it and do the $5 game. But I will tell you, in my experience, the $25 game's easier to cash in.
They are. You don't need to score as high because there's less stables.
There's less competition. There's fewer stables. It is absolutely the way to go. And
that feeling,
I typically,
when you look down afterwards and you go, for $25, I could have won that contest if I would. We're not talking about thousands either, right? I can understand if it's a $500 game or a $250 game. Sometimes for big, like, you don't have that money. I completely understand. You're in between paychecks. It's a tough week. You have $20 left on your stable dual account, and that's all you can play with today. I totally get it. But when you have an option for 2 and you can, and it's 25 or 30 or even 50 and it's affordable, do it, because you don't want to cost yourself $500. You
Yeah.
know, when you look back at the end and go, really, the same lineup would have won me
Yeah.
that contest.
Yeah, and what I would always tell people, if you feel good about the card, if you trust your capping and you feel good, then you got to enter both,
Play
and you
both.
got to enter, yeah, but then play both, because if you're, and now it's one thing if you go, this card could go a few different ways.
Hey, I'm looking for some action today. I have,
Yeah,
like I said, I've got a few bucks in my account. I want to play something.
sure,
That's sure.
I
then
get it,
Totally
but
understand.
but yeah, but if you put time in, then do the $25, because
Absolutely.
it's going to pay off in the long run, and it's going to pay off in the short run too, to be honest.
I'm looking at races 4, 6, and 8 for Saturday for Del Mar. How about for you, Matt?
9 and 10, baby.
9 and 10. So let's start in race number 4. We'll take you through a lot of the Saturday card. We're looking Saturday, August the 13th. We're looking over at Del Mar. We're looking at drf.com at daily racing form for the past performances. So in race number 4, it's a $50,000 claiming race. They'll go a mile on the turf in here. I thought there's a pretty decent amount of speed with the outside 2 in particular. Kono and Neptune Storm are both going to go. You have Coast of Rhone flash speed last time out, but I'm going to talk about him in a minute. He's the horse who I like. Seattle Bold is going to go. It's My House is going to go. Shout out to Laura Dern, Big Little Lies. Hey, Jake, see if you could find me that gif out there where Laura Dern's doing the "It's my house and I live here. It's my house." That's my jam. I just went and checked out Jurassic World. Finally, I saw it late, but I finally was able to see it. I love me some Laura Dern. She's one of my favorite actresses. I
Love
think
Laura Dern. Yeah,
she is
she's great.
fantastic. But the horse who I like is Coast of Rhone, and I'm hoping Coast of Rhone does not show speed, Matt, because he shows speed last time out in a race where they weren't going all that fast early on. I don't think it was I'm showing speed because I'm fast. I think it's I'm showing speed by default because they're going 49 to the half mile and nobody else is really in here on the lead that wants to push the pace. Yep. He's always been more of a sitter. Almost always. He's been sitting off the pace, coming from off the pace, and pretty consistent. Now, he raced on May 31st of 2021, and then he had a long time off. He shows back up in early April, and then in early April, when he shows back up going 6.5 down the hill, he runs into a tough group with Burning Turf, who got in really nice form, and it was a prep race to set him up for the May 21st race. He ran well on May 21st. They got aggressive with him. Now, Jeff Mullins claims, and when you look at Jeff Mullins over the last 2 years, first start off the claim, his claim numbers have jumped back. They were awesome years ago. Then they were cold for a while. Now they're really good again. He's won with 6 of his last 23 first start off the claim, 26% with a $3.61 ROI. For your $2, you'd be getting back $3.61 on all the Mullins claims. I just want him to sit in here. Joe Bravo isn't really aggressive. As long as this horse can sit, I think he'll fit really, really well. All he'll have to do is come back and fire a similar effort as to his last with just slightly different tactics. And what's nice is he's just not as fast as the horses to his outside. So I don't think he will even be able to battle with them. You know, like they're way faster than him. Let him sit 4th or 5th and give him a good shot. That's the number 8, Coast of Rhone, 5-1. So in stable duel, it'll cost you $6,000. A good early pick 4, pick 5 type of horse for Rockingham Ranch and Mullins first off the claim.
Yep, I like that.
Okay, so let's go to race number 6. This is one of the stakes races on the card. And this one is the Yellow Ribbon. Going Global is always tough in these races. Going Global is 6-5. She's going to be super tough to beat, but I'm never going to tell you to play a horse like Going Global or to use a horse like Going Global in stable duel. I do think the 1 is a little live too, Avenue de France, who's 4-1.
Yeah.
And that actually leads me to my next handicapping angle in the 4, Rocking Redhead. Now, Rocking Redhead for Papa Padromo, who we have been talking about how his horses have been running really well. Overall in her career, she flashed a lot of speed in her races. In the July 23rd race, I loved what she did. She sat off the pace quite a bit more. And what was great about that race, she was in 5th. She was inside. She was about 4 lengths off. She got a nice split. She moved really well, but she just got run down by Avenue de France, and she was a nose away from second. So if Avenue de France, who's more of a closer and, is very likely to maybe get into some traffic, maybe have to wait, maybe have to deal with some, racing luck, that isn't really the case for a horse like Rocking Redhead, who has a little more tactical speed, who can get the jump, who can place her in nice spots. She's going to be making her second start back, and a major positive. Hector Berrios is jumping aboard.
Oh, Hector's been running
right.
Beautifully.
And if you don't know Hector Berrios, and maybe you haven't been paying attention, he is a fantastic turf rider.
Yep.
Fantastic. You can click on the jockey statistics right up here on the top of your daily racing form past performances, and they really get in depth as to what each rider has been doing. So if you look at Hector Berrios, and you look at Hector Berrios where his wins have been coming, he's 4 for 11 on the turf. 4 for 11 on the turf. That's unbelievable. Look at everybody else's numbers. 6 for 38, 5 for 23, 4 for 34, 1 for 28 for good riders, 2 for 13, 2 for 30. He's 4 out of 11.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. And the reason why, because he's a great grass rider. What I've got him here and in one more race later on. And what I'm trying to do, Matt, I'm trying to beat the trend, because if he has one more weekend where he wins a couple of these grass races, you're not going to be able to bet on him in these grass races a whole lot anymore. People are going to take notice. It's already being said on podcasts. I already heard it last week on a couple different radio shows. Everyone taking notice about what a good grass rider he is. And I'll try to get ahead of the trend, because again, if he wins this race, he comes back and wins a few this weekend, and everyone's looking at those numbers going, wow, this guy's won with 5 or 6 out of 15 or 20 grass races. He's not going to be playable all that much anymore. He's going to start to get bet. So I think he can now what's nice with Rockin' Redhead, we know she has speed, but now they have some options, because we know that she can pass horses and sit, and a very, very polished turf rider aboard. I like Rockin' Redhead a bit in the stakes race number 6. She's 12 to 1. So for stable duel, that's only going to cost you $750.
Yep.
And if she's anything over like 8 to 1, I think that's a great price if you're playing any type of rolling exotics, or if you're looking to play a horse to win.
Absolutely. One of the things I mentioned very quickly, and I like that play a lot, one of the things I'll mention about this race in particular, but it really speaks to a stable duel trend more broadly, is you brought up Avenue de Franc, and Park Avenue is also in this race. They're both at 4 to 1.
Oh, and we got to mention our gal, Javonica.
Of course. And then there's Javonica.
At least say hello to Javonica. Hey, Javi, how you doing, girl?
But one of the things I've noticed with stable duel is for those people who are on the, who have an Apple phone, you can always see the percentage of people who use different horses in their contests. Okay. One of the things I've noticed is that 4 to 1 horses are almost never used, are among the less used, because they're not low enough to be a bargain, but they're 4 to 1. So they rarely are the morning line favorite, or even the second or third favorite in most cases. So they're like the third favorite, but they're still $7,000 on a stable duel, and it's not really costing you. It's still costing you a fair amount of money. Here's what I would say is, if you have a strong opinion about a 4 to 1 horse, absolutely play it, because you're going to you're going to lap the field, because nobody's playing those 4 to 1 horses, because people are either playing the 6 to 5 favorite, or they're playing the 12 to 1 long shot. And you can, there's some market correction there. And it's kind of an interesting thing that these 4 to 1 horses are kind of in no man's land in stable duel. And they sometimes get overlooked because people go, I don't want to spend 7,000. And I understand why.
You either spend all the way up if you're going to,
exactly,
or you go the opposite way. And it's like, like what we're doing here, right?
Exactly.
Our whole show is kind of built to misses those horses, right? Because we're usually talking about why we're not playing the heavy favorites, but we don't really mention those horses who are right under that range. That's a good point.
Yeah. And so it's a quirky little thing that I've noticed that, like, it doesn't matter how good a horse is, except 4 to 1. I'm just like, nope, 7% of people are using, 5% of people are using, 3% of people are using. But if that horse wins, then you're kind of laughing all the way to the bank because everybody else is using these different horses, and now you're passing people in the contest. So
Yep.
there's something to think about. But I do like rocking Redhead, and Hector feels a little bit like where maybe Javier Castellano was like 2 weeks ago at Saratoga, where it was like, is this for real? Like, is this happening? And then like it started happening, and everybody started betting Castellano like down a lot between morning line and the post time. So
And
like
great
that.
work, Jake, giving me that Laura Dern.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
Oh, that's my jam. I love that show. If I've outed myself quite a bit over the last couple months and stuff because I consume all content. And that's what I do with my podcast too. And like, that's why I host a show like that, because I love wrestling. I love Marvel. I love Star Wars. Anything that's interesting, that's funny, if it's corny, I don't mind. Like, I don't think I'm too cool to watch anything. I don't have this ego of like, I don't want, like, anything that's well done, that's funny, that's creative, I like. And so, sometimes the rom-com movies or shows, like I said, Gilmore Girls, I'm about finishing up right now. And Big Little Lies was one that Stephanie and me, we watched, and I love that show. It was a guilty pleasure. So Jake was quick to the trigger with Laura Dern on the gift there.
Fantastic.
I've got my final one in race number 8. Where else do you look today?
I'm in 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
9 and 10. So that's good.
I'll go to race 8, and then Matt will finish us up in races 9 and 10. So race number 8, we're going to go, I teased it a little bit earlier, but once again, we're looking to a horse that's being ridden by Hector Berrios.
Yep.
And we're looking at the number 7, Sydney Street. Now, Sydney Street, Nev Campbell's been in the news a lot lately. Sydney with the Scream movies.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sydney Street in the race that we're watching is the number 6 here. Now, she's going to end up set. I always want to say, I do this all the time when there's a horse that's named Sydney Street. I want to call it she. It's he. I always do this just because
I do that at Jackie's Warrior all the time.
Every time I call her she. Every time I always do it. So Sydney Street settles 7th, about 4 lengths off. Not in a bad path. He's right there in the 2 path. He's the number 6 in this race. So there's, he's in sort of the 3rd flight. There's 3 in the 1st flight, then kind of a grouping of 2. He's right to the outside of the 1 there. I thought he's in a pretty nice spot. And it's going a mile and a 16th in optional 80 first level allowance. So it's the same exact conditions for the race that he's going to be running in on Saturday. But this race was his first start for John Sadler. It was his first start since January. So hadn't raced in 6 months.
Yeah.
They're figuring him out a little bit. It's his first time in North American racing. Mm-hmm. And at this moment, when the real racing starts to pick up, he starts to move. He doesn't look like he's going to win the race or anything. Like, he's just moving a little bit. He's kind of being hard ridden. But here's what happens. He gets completely forced out going into the turn. And then again, at the top of the lane, right here, the horse to the outside comes up. He is completely to a standstill. Yeah. And jockey Kyle Frey was standing up. Now, I don't think he was ever going to win this race, but watch again with the 6 late. Like, you figured he pulled up, right?
Yeah.
He actually came back on again and got back into the race after that. I mean, he had every right at that point to just pull up, back up, and be done for the day, right? Hey, let's come back. But the horse, I think, naturally just got a little aggressive and wanted to come on again. And you know what? He was only beaten 4 lengths. Even with all that, it was a little quirky. Now it's going to be his second start off the bench with that race under his belt. And like we mentioned, I don't think Kyle Frey there wasn't any issue, but now you have the hot riding Hector Berrios aboard, who seems to be making all the right moves on the grass and pressing all the right buttons. Now I figure Sydney Street will be a little more fit with that race under his belt. He'll probably be a little tighter in this spot. I think it's a good spot for Sydney Street. The price is correct. It's 8-1. That's going to only cost us $3,000 in Stable Duel. This is a really nice late pick 4, late pick 5 type of horse to throw into some of your exotics. Sydney Street at 8-1.
Love it. Love it. And you're right. That was impressive. A lot of times when the horse goes that, like, has that sort of a wide trip, and you see the jockey stand up. It's like, okay, time to walk
Now
it
we're
off.
done. We'll
Like,
just
yeah,
back
we're
up.
just we'll walk home.
But I think
So,
what happens is these horses will like look to the other side and there's other horses there and they get competitive.
yeah,
They still want to
Yeah.
outfinish some of the other ones. So I think there's a little something there with Sydney
I agree.
Street. Matt, let's close out the Del Mar card in the 9th and the 10th. You've got 2 for us. We go to the grade 2 Sorrento. You teased earlier. You like races where you have these lightly raced 2-year-olds, and we get some 2-year-old fillies in here.
Yep, 2-year-old fillies always like the Sorrento, and I will go with the number 2 Vegas Magic, who I actually teased a little bit earlier as a horse I like quite a bit. And this race at Pleasanton, the horse. It's funny, the maiden effort. She went out and kind of had a really kind of textbook stalking trip, sat second or third the entire way, and then kind of, moved around and won by, kind of a length or so that first time out. And you'd expect her to do the same thing this time, but no, she's actually the 6 or the 8, I should say. And she is kind of all the way. She's eventually going to be kind of all the way at the back.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, God, did she just, did the horse just on fire? Is she okay? What's going on? Or because it wasn't, she got shuffled a little bit, but it wasn't like it was a bad break or a bad trip.
It sort of just looked like she was done almost, right?
Exactly. And so she's just kind of be sitting far back. Your guy Man Oh Man is kind of
opening up right
here.
here.
Yeah, exactly. And looking good. And then it really doesn't happen until late, but when it happens, you'll see
she's in the yellow silks.
Yep, she's
back
in
here
yellow
in
silks
between.
here. And again, you think she's still got no chance. And all of a sudden, he gives her that the left-handed whip or the right-handed whip, and she just, now look at this, goes between the 2 horses and just is flying at the end up there, and then gets it by a nose. And so it was just a super impressive race that didn't really bring back much of a speed figure, actually a declining speed figure from her first time out, went from a 61 to a 57. But here's the thing, speed figures for 2-year-olds are so hard to calculate.
I agree. I don't like them at all because
they're just hard. And because you don't know how good the competition is yet in a lot of cases.
Track variants, horses that get quick leads, open up 3, and then they run horses off their feet. They're really hard to gauge.
They're very hard to gauge. And it should be noted, the horse that actually finished 4th in that race that we just watched came back to win already. And so there's something there from that race. It's coming back all right. I just think this horse has, and here's the thing, this horse has versatility. We just saw this horse come from almost dead last to kind of nab them at the wire. We've also seen this horse in the maiden effort sit just right off. And so that gives Abel Cedillo, the jockey, plenty of opportunities there to go, what do we want to do? Do we want to sit? Do we want to, do we want to sit back? Because here's the thing. I think, the 1's going to go, obviously, because breaking from the inside, and that's what the 1 does. The 3's probably going to go and be pretty forwardly placed as well. And so there might be a little bit of speed up front. You never know what the 6 wants to do as well. Going up there should be close also. So I don't know. I'm also not that overwhelmed with the 6 yet. The favorite in this race.
I agree. I know he's
a good horse, but
I think it says a little something that O'Neill has this horse in here too. Also, right? The other one, I do think if it's not as if they don't like Absolutely Zero with Veteran Racing,
right?
But I feel like if that horse was like, they didn't want to mess with it, they would put Vegas Magic somewhere else. I get that feeling. Or there's other races like this horse is sneaky, Matt. I'm glad you mentioned because she has shown things in her 2 starts that we just don't see from everybody else. Versatility and multiple dimensions.
Yep. And going through a tight spot, splitting horses to coming down the stretch, like you don't see that very often, especially out of a 2-year-old horse. And so a lot of times with these 2-year-olds, it's not even, especially these early races, it's not even so much about who's going to go on to the better career or who's the better horse. It's about mentally, where are they at this young of an age?
What you just said is extremely important because I think far too often people are looking for the horse who might be the best down the line and not who is the best suited for this particular race. Remember that in every race at every level that you bet.
Yep.
Down the line is great when you're talking about the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
And you're looking at horses prepping.
Yep.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter. What matters is this race that's right in front of you. And maybe a horse has a better pedigree. Maybe they've been a little bit more impressive, but if the race doesn't shape up for them here, they may be in trouble. I'm glad that you mentioned that because that is a really important thing, especially with these 2-year-old races. You might have horses with these gaga pedigrees that are going to be awesome going long with a race or two under their belt. Maybe they'll be great on the turf, but that doesn't mean they're best suited for this dirt sprint.
Exactly. And that's it. You're absolutely right. Dirt sprints, you just never know. And what I'll say is Vegas Magic's sire, Good Magic, is also off to a really nice career in terms of being a sire. And so there's just a lot to like there. And so far has turned out some really nice dirt sprint horses. So I just think at 6-1, you're getting a little bit of value. I'll play against the favorites in this one and go with a horse that's a little less expensive in this particular spot. I just I tend to just, I don't want to say always, but I rarely am ever willing to spend $9,000 or more on a 2-year-old horse.
I agree.
In stable duel.
Because you just don't know. There's still so many variables at all from start 1 to start 2. You don't have enough of a sample size with a body of work to get a good feel for exactly who these horses are.
Yeah. So that's my play in the Sorrento. So
you got one in the 10th to close it out, right? Bail out Barry,
out.
Living vicariously through Maddie as we finish up. Tell us where we're going to give a winner out to close out the show.
Yeah. So this is one where this final race is a maiden special weight, $80,000. It's a mile and 16th on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. And I'm going to the number 2, Takamak, 12-1. A couple of things I really like about this horse. One, we're getting the blinks put on, but more importantly, we're on the right surface because that's another thing that happened. And again, this is one of those where every line makes sense.
Yep.
And you look at the first effort, sprinting on the turf at Churchill Downs, finishes a really competitive third, and really shows something, passes a bunch of horses late. So you like that, attracted a good jockey in Leparoux. So like everything about that. Then goes up to Saratoga in July. The race gets rained off the turf, muddy surface, and promptly finishes 7th by 37 lengths, which you would expect. And dropped very far back. Something clearly happened in that race. This horse went to the bench for the last year, and then comes back going long at Del Mar, and I thought ran a perfectly fine 5th place finish out of a 12-horse field. There's nothing bad about that race.
The winner sat a perfect trip just off the pace,
And here's the thing is the horse that finished second that day, Pray For Me Ray, if you just look at the same races back in this race, that horse is going off at 3-1 on the morning line. Now, wait a second. The horse that finished 2 lengths behind that horse, the 2, Takamak, is to 12-1. So there's 2 lengths difference between these two horses last time out, and one's 3-1 and one's 12-1. And one, and the one's coming back from
has much more tactical speed, is going to add the blinkers, and was making his first start in a year in that race.
A year. And so that's the thing is
I like this horse a lot, man. This is a good find.
Yeah. And Sisterton, Sisterson, has not had a great meet thus far, small sample size, but typically does get horses cranked up for second off the layoff, which is good. Does have success with blinkers as well. So just a lot of this just makes a lot of sense for stable duel. Only $750. Let's get that bailout for Barry.
And the thing about Sisterson too, and the column it runners, he's never going to be a 20 or 30% trainer because they run their horses in such ambitious spots a lot. Like he's always running in tough spots against like good horses. They usually aren't dropping horses right off the bat. They're in graded stakes or taking on, and you'll see them pop at big prices sometimes because of that. They're in it to win it. They're in the big races. So he's not trying to worry about dropping horses to get a 25% win percentage to make it look better for the statistics. They're worried about winning big races. That's what they want to do. So they're not going to win them quite as often. Percentages are going to be lower, certainly capable with the right type of horse. You've talked me into this one for sure, Maddie. You're going to find Takamak on my stable duel lineup on Saturday there. So hopefully you've got some separation on me going into the last race, because you're going to need it there. I'm going to steal this one from you. I'm going to throw him into a pick 4 and pick 5 to close things out. We missed our good friend Barry today, but Barry is having some fun at Saratoga. Barry, I hope you and Chuck have a blast over there, my friend. Have some drinks and make some money. Shout out to Jake for hanging out with us always, posting the gifts, and Phil Cleek. Phil is someone who
good guy.
I love Phil. Handicap a lot with Phil, Louisiana Downs. He's an owner and a really sharp handicapper. So thanks to Phil for checking out. He liked the comments that we were just making about the 2-year-olds and the speed figures and how it's sort of tough to get a gauge on them sometimes. Folks, remember, we'll be back here each and every Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time for the next 4 weeks or so. We'll be rolling through Del Mar and Saratoga for the most part. We'll get you all set up for the Stable Duel weekend games. We'll tell you all the details. Right now, there are a lot of fun, affordable Stable Duel contests that you can play every single day. So download that app or head to stableduel.com and you can find more specifics there. Maddie, my friend, I hope you have an awesome weekend. Good luck to you with all your plays. Make sure to give Matt a follow on Twitter at Fail to Menace. Matt is just a great handicapper, a fantastic Stable Duel player. The information that you hear that Matt provides on this show, he does for all of his other written content and stuff.
Yep.
And early in the week, he's helping out with the Cinnabon Down stuff. And really, really proud of the last year. How, like, I say proud, like I was, but you're my friend. I'm proud of my friends, and I see you doing so well. And you're so well received by a lot of people on social media. You're such a nice dude, but you work hard too. And I love seeing you out there working hard and making money. I love seeing that name up on the top of the Stable Duel standings. Tupaloop, baby.
Tupaloop.
There we go.
Absolutely. Well, Gino, thank you so much for the kind words. And that really means a lot. And I just, always enjoy interacting with people. And one of the things, you're the same way, I know. I love learning from people. I love the more followers I get, the more people I get to see, the more people I get to interact with.
How do they play? Why do they come to that conclusion?
Exactly.
It's not like that I know more than you, or you know more than me, or you don't know what you're looking at in the racing form, but it's a different mindset. It's just a different way of going in and thinking about angles that people look at with horses. That's the thing that I love to see is, wow, that makes sense. That was something that I might use moving forward in the future. We have too big of egos sometimes as horse players, right? Like, don't worry about that. Like, use the things you learn. The reason why I've become better with football and betting, I read Pro Football Focus, Football Outsiders, like all of these smart analytical sites that help me learn from the smart people around you in all of the stuff that you're doing. One of those smart people is Matt, who I get to hang out with each and every Friday. Barry, my friend, we love you. We miss you this week. Have a good weekend. Good luck. Thanks so much to everyone for hanging out with us. We'll be back again with you next Friday. Remember, head on over to Stable Duel. Get those entries in and play, race, win.
Better, you want to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better, I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You want to be cool, Stable Duel. Your horse racing fantasy.